this is a good time to talk a little bit about layout. Notice how much space it put between here and here. Why did it push it all the way to the end? And this is basically a choice it has to make because, for example, Flying Logic documents always have a flow. They are what mathematicians call a directed acyclic graph. Directed means that the edges have arrows, so they have a direction they point. It's acyclic in that the document has no loops. All these arrows flow from a beginning, which could be one or more nodes, all the way to the end. And graph is basically boxes and lines. That's what a mathematician calls a graph. What you think of as a bar chart, that's technically called a histogram. But a graph is nodes and edges that connect them, and that's what Flying Logic is. So Flying Logic is a directed acyclic graph, and so that usually it can find root nodes. These are nodes that have no predecessors, and it can find leaf nodes, which are nodes that have no successors. So it has to decide: am I going to take, where am I going to put the root and leaf nodes? Do I put the root at do I put the leaves as close as possible to the root, or do I put them as far away as possible? And I'm going to open up the layout inspector here, and I'm going to show you this little menu here called bias. Bias basically makes that determination. Remember I said there's not a lot of layout functions in Flying Logic, but sometimes you want to push your leaf nodes as close as possible to your root nodes. So that's left bias in this case. So in this case, now it's trying to push leaf nodes as far to the left as possible. And which you choose is strictly up to you. It doesn't change the meaning of the document, but sometimes the layout looks nicer with one bias or the other. Now, another thing about orientation is the diagram is by default laid out from left to right. You can also, but for example, if you're doing a transition trees are often laid out from bottom to top. And which you're choosing is up to you. Certain things like an evaporating cloud, a conflict resolution map are laid out from right to left. Sometimes when you're dealing with a strict tree, now again, a graph basically is a cause can have more than one effect, and effect can have more than one cause. That's what makes it a directed acyclic graph. A tree, like a mind map, usually has one root node that has children nodes, they have children nodes, but a child always has exactly one parent. Whereas in a directed acyclic graph, that's relaxed. A child can have more than one parent, and a parent can have more than one child, as long as it doesn't form any loops. So let me go back to left to right here. So there's two other layouts, and what they're called the organic layouts, inner to outer and outer to inner. And these will look good with trees. This isn't a tree, so it's gonna look a little weird. But if this were a perfect tree, preferably with no groups or groups of clusters at the end, it would be one nice node in the middle stretching out from the center. So this is also a good chance to tease something. I'm about to release Flying Logic 3.1. It's got several features that have been requested. One of them is a layout feature because people, for example, would like their diagram to be tighter sometimes. So now we have a compactness. So if you have Flying Logic right now, this feature is not in there, but Flying Logic 3.1, which will be released very soon, has this feature, which is compactness. If it starts out relaxed, we can make it what we call comfortable, and we can make it called compact. Not a lot of choice there, but for a big diagram, it can make a lot of difference in terms of, like, for example, how much paper you'd print on and things like that. So, we give you some control, but it's not infinite, because if it gets too tight, it starts looking terrible. Part of what Flying Logic is designed to do is give you good looking results, even if you're not a designer, but it won't give you design results. And so, people who request, well, I want to be able to make everything different. It's like, well, there's a tool for that. It's called Visio. But then again, you take on the burden of all the layout yourself. If you're a planner and you want to think about what the diagram means, that's what Flying Logic's for.